Y'all, it's your buddy Smokey, back in the lab. Happy Thanksgiving. Um, I was waiting to discuss the five. What? The five? Yeah, you skipped the five, Smokey. I did, because the five in the major scale system is sort of a separate event that happens elsewhere. It's a dominant seventh chord. Now, I had talked about the dominant seventh chord in my video called Exploring Instability. And I was treating it as a separate thing. But now we're going to treat it as part of a system, a formula, and then we're going to take a look at it again as a separate thing because the dominant seventh chord happens in many formulas. So the five. Let's start this in D, and D is one, one, two, three, four, five is A, the note A. So A is the five of D. Now, on the fifth scale degree, a chord is built. Because of the formula, we all know that 1, 4, and 5 are major chords, 2, 3, and 6 are minor chords, and 7 is a diminished triad or a minor 7 flat 5 if you're going to expand it to 4 notes. So, expanding it to 4 notes, the 5 is a dominant 7. It's a major chord with 7th added. That's a whole step away from the root. Whereas a major 7th chord would be a major chord with the 7th a half step away from the root. Now, because to Western ears, there's an instability to the 5 chord. It wants to move. It wants to resolve. So let's take a listen to that. I'm going to play A7. And it's going to resolve to D major. We hear that 5-1. And that's a very Western sound. Those of us in Western culture, we hear that. We know it's coming. We're sort of culturally, yeah, it's going to happen. And that's what happens in the 5 of the major scale formula. It happens in the 5 of the harmonic minor formula. It happens on the 5 of the melodic minor formula. As well, there's a 7th chord on the 4 as well. There's a 7th chord on the 7th of the melodic minor as well. So, say we're in a situation where you're playing on a static, meaning not moving, dominant 7th chord. What do? Well, you have plenty of options. And the more you work with your options, the more you'll hear them, and the more you can mix them, and the more you work with these resources, the more they're available to you because you work with them and it becomes part of the radio in your head, that inner ear, the music that you hear. So start working with the resources, but we'll start with a simple idea, a couple of options that you can use. If you get in a 7th chord, static 7th chord space, we'll do it in A7 because this is where we started. So we're in D major. Now, modally, and we'll get into modes more, you can think of it as the Mixolydian mode, but it's the 5 of the major. You can play major pentatonic over it. You can outline the 7th chord itself with either arpeggios or working around the chord tones of the scale. Example, say that A7, right? So little vamp on the loop. Now, to play around the chord tones, let's take a look at the shape of the 7th chord. So what you want to do is play around those notes. So I'm going to just use these top 4 strings. flat 7, the root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, root, major 3rd. Those are the notes of the chord. What we can do now is we can approach the notes of the chord, say chromatically. I pulled that little compound lick of, I've got 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to add the flat 3. 7th, there. The 6th, which is a really nice sound against the 7th. I think I'd started with bending from the 6th to the flat 7. You can play with the minor against the major 3rd. It's a very common move. You've heard that. That's how you do it. You can take your minor pentatonic against the 7th chord. So you can mix them both up. Example of major pentatonic over that. Sorry, I had to mic stir that for a second. Jean-Pierre quote. It's for you, Josh. And so there's a major pentatonic over that. So you can also do your blues scale over that. That's the idea. A 7th chord will take kind of whatever you throw at it. And that's the cool thing. So say we're doing something like the idea of a blues. And we'll stay in A here. So, each chord is a 7th chord. Now, thinking of it that way, you can treat each chord that comes by in, say, a 12-bar blues, if you're doing them as 7th chords, that each one of them is from a different key. So you can change keys. And not only do you get to change keys, but you kind of have those options that come along with 7th chords. What, Smokey? Okay, remember I was telling you that the 7th chord is unstable. And you can shoot at it pretty much anything you want, and it'll be okay, as long as you kind of come out of that okay. You know what I mean? And it works as you go through it. So say like over the A7. D7, you're now in G. Back to A7, you're back in D. So when you get to the 5 of blues, in this case E, you're in A major, or all kinds of other things that the 7th chord will allow you to do. Back to the 4. So that's the idea. Each, in a 12-bar blues, if each chord is a dominant 7th chord, well, it's the dominant 7th chord of something else. So you can play that over that change. So say like you normally play a minor pentatonic over that. So play the major over it instead. And when it goes to the D7, the 4, now you're in G major, but the 2 is minor, so the minor pentatonic works. to start doing, you want to start playing with your options, and you want to start hearing it. It's your buddy Smokey. Just a quick insight into the 5 of the major formula. It's also, again, like I said, the 5 of the harmonic minor, the 5 of the melodic minor, the 4 of the melodic minor, the 7 of the melodic minor. Dominant 7 chords come up in a lot of places in formulas. You'll also encounter them as static creatures, 1 chord jams. You'll also find them in vamps, usually the very famous kind of like 2-5. There's the 2, there's the 5. In this case, A minor, 7 to D7, D9, it's G major. That's the idea. You will find 7 chords in a 12-bar blues. Each chord, the 1, the 4, and the 5 of the form will be 7th chords. Thus, you're in other keys every time. You don't have to just stick to one scale. If you want to, that's fine. I'm just saying you have options, and explore those options. And a 7th chord, a dominant 7th chord, is something that's really helpful at hearing you, at helping you. Hearing you, it hears you too, maybe, perhaps, if you speak to it nicely. I don't know. Helping you hear your options. So I'm going to play the loop one more time. I'm going to do a little shreddy, and I'm going to mix options, and hopefully I'll be aware enough to shout them out at you what I'm doing. Major pentatonic. Outlining the chord. Little minor thing thrown in. Play with a minor major 3rd. How about that? Straight D major. Let's just treat it as a 5 of a major. How about that? And you'll hear Mixolydian kind of ideas. How about A harmonic minor or D harmonic minor? Since this works. That's that sound. Phrygian dominant is also what it's called. Let's hear it against the melodic. So that was a 5 in the melodic. Let's think of it as a 4 in the melodic. So then we're going to be in E melodic minor. And it's also called Lydian dominant. Listen to that. That's that sound. It also happens on the 7. So B flat melodic minor are also known as the altered scale. The darker sound, not always easy to use at first, obviously. But that's the idea. A dominant 7th chord can do a lot and will take a lot. And you can dish out just about whatever you want to with it. And if you're composing, remember 7th chords are unstable, so they're kind of willing to go just about anywhere. And the more you alter it, the more you attach other tones to it that aren't structurally important to the function of the chord. Most definitely the root, the 3rd and the 7th, but mostly that 3rd and the 7th, the major 3rd and the flat 7 is really what creates that instability. And even if you were just, say, instead of playing the whole chord, say you're comping on a static thing, you don't have to play the whole chord. That was one thing I learned early on, was you're in a jam. You do that the whole tune? Don't do that the whole tune. Don't do that the whole tune. You'll be bored sonically. Everybody else is going to be bored, and you'll just find yourself getting into a rut. Take bits and pieces of it, especially the 3rd and the 7th. Like in this example, in A, the G here on the D string and the C sharp here on the G string. You could literally just go. You're just getting bits and pieces of it, parts of it. Substitute a 7th chord with a 9th chord, which is just a dominant 7th, add the 9. The James Brown chord, you've heard it called that. That's what it is. It's a dominant 7th chord with a 9. That kind of idea. So bits and pieces, like 7th and 3rd, or flip it, 3rd and 7th. You can substitute a minor 7 flat 5 built off the 3rd of the chord to make a 9th chord. So in this case, C sharp minor 7 flat 5 over the A builds that 9th chord. So you can bits and pieces will help you comping on it. You don't have to necessarily just but take a look especially at the 3rd and 7th of the chord. You can mix and match, spread, compress, do whatever you want, as long as those notes are there. It's 7th chord, and have fun exploring that. It's your buddy Smokey. Thanks for hanging out here in the lab. We went on a bit, didn't we? It was a lot of information to the 5. So keep watching, soak it in, and we're going to move on to some other stuff. I think next we're just going to do some tactile stuff in terms of some noise making. That expression can go beyond just notes, and you hear noises from other instruments, and you can incorporate those things as forms of expression, not just tricks, not just notes. It's your buddy Smokey. What are you waiting for? Make the effort. You don't make the effort, you don't get the good stuff. We'll talk to you later. Thanks for hanging out in the lab. Mwah!